Well, hello again. I'm Bob Colt, continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools, and Michelle Marchand is with me. Did I say that right?
That's close enough.
Close
I'll call it good.
Wonders Reading.
Yes.
What is it?
Wonders Reading is a phenomenal reading program, Bob, that Charlotte is implementing fully K-6 this year. Last year, those of us in grades 1, 3, and 5 piloted this program, and we found it to be so beneficial for students and for parents, and it was very easy for us to follow at home.
And so what makes this so special?
Oh, well, I can start with some things that as teachers and as central office administrators have said what they like the best, all right? One thing that I appreciate is that it's linked to the Common Core state standards. And it gives kids such a great experience in informational text. It gives them some great experience using digital text. And another piece that I appreciate is the spiraling.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, and I'm
Okay.
going to explain that
Good,
to you.
good.
Okay. What that means, Bob, is first of all, within a grade, it means that I introduce skills and reading strategies, those things that help kids understand text. I introduce those, and then they come up later throughout the year in different units. Because we all know some people get it just like this, and other times it takes a second time or a third time. So it spirals, and each time it spirals, it can go deeper for those kids who are ready for that, or it can stay at the level where we're just moving slightly lower for kids that need a little bit more support.
Now, is that kind of a new thought process in teaching?
Well, the idea of spiraling has been around for a while. We have it in our everyday math program. So for us, though, in Charlotte, we had a great balanced literacy program, but many times we were working with your own teaching materials, okay? And while each of us had rich teaching materials, there wasn't consistency. And there wasn't consistency within grades, making sure, because we have to have a curriculum that's guaranteed and viable to make sure those kids know what they've got to have. So now we have a program that says, you know what, we're going to make sure these skills and strategies are taught and then come around again and come around again so that kids are successful.
And so you have books filled with content, but if we just cheat to the camera, I'm sure it looks good to kids and it's attractive.
It is attractive to kids, and one thing that I like is we have a couple of different hardcover texts. This one is our reading and writing workshop book. We start out the unit with something we call an essential question, and that essential question is what guides our thinking for the week, and I'll see if I can find one for you. Right here. What do we need? And the essential question is, how do we get the things that we need? And we will read text, both informational, okay, and those that are fiction text, and the kids will do a listening piece too, that all connect to this theme. And that is rich for kids, because if you're an informational text kid, you're going to just eat it up. If you're a fiction kid, you're going to be in there, yeah, this is good stuff too. So this is one thing that we use that really gets kids involved. And then we have a great visual vocabulary for them. Another strong piece of the program is the vocabulary. And then a close read, which means we're reading for purpose. Not just for fun, although we do read for fun, but we do read for its purpose. And then it also connects to our skills and strategies, and continues in skills and strategies, and then we have another piece which is great that connects our readers to writers.
Yeah, and so reading is not a sole thing, it's also connected to writing.
It is. And to grammar and spelling. It all comes together, and it's great for kids. So they have this text that's great for them. Then we have our longer reads and our literature anthology. This is where we have rigor. Okay, and that's a big thing for the Common Core. They're like, all right, you have to have something that's a little bit hard because you have to have persistence. Move through it. There's persistence in math and there's persistence in reading. But guess what? The kid isn't just left there to struggle. We're there alongside, side by side, to say, all right, what can we do? What are strategies that we use to help us when we get stuck? So it's great. And then another piece, which the kids last year, I will tell you, they absolutely love, and I wish I had brought it up on the website so that y'all could have seen it. But the digital component, Bob, oh my goodness. Okay.
And the kids are way ahead of us on that stuff.
All I had to do was put it in their to-do list, and those kids, they would get onto it and they would do it. And the great piece is it's not just games, okay, because there are games and kids learn through games, we know that. But there's also a place where they can go on into their writer's workplace and they can take pieces that they've been working on in the classroom or in our computer lab. They can pull them up at home and they can work on their writing at home as well. They don't have to worry about transporting anything back and forth. They're just right there. And then when they come into school the next day, their revisions are there, their additions are there, and it's great. And the kids take such great pride in doing that. Last year they would say, Miss Marchand, guess what? I worked on my stuff at home.
Now, is this kind of program something that you really need to share with parents? Are they actively involved in this kind of thing?
They can't be to the extent that they would like to be, all right? The parents can sit down and they can watch the games with the kids and play the games with the kids. Another thing that they can do is on the digital component, there are also the guided reading books. The parents can look through the guided reading books and see what we're learning. They can support their child that way and have their child practice their reading at home. The parents can look through the writing as well and give them some suggestions and some pointers if they're interested. Another parent piece is that we can send the newsletters via email so that they can know exactly what we're doing. They don't have to wait for a paper copy.
And so, Michelle, as you introduce this Wonders program, and actually, more than introduced, really integrated into the teaching program, how do you make it consistent year after year? You've done there's been a lot of research on this, hasn't there?
There has. And one thing that we know is that as teachers, it takes a commitment from you to teach the program with fidelity, okay? And I'll be honest, Bob, the first time through it, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I can do this because I know it's good stuff.
Teachers have to learn something new.
And teachers have to learn something new and in
Yeah.
a different way. But what a great message for kids to say, you know what, my teacher's learning this too. It's all based on research that we learned, whether it was 30 years ago in our methods classes or what comes out now with Bob Marzano and what's good for kids. So it does take commitment and it does take some work on the teacher's part, but the results that we had last year, we had some nice results that we noticed from our students who were in the Wonders program, and when we continue to implement with fidelity, we can see those results continue to show the gains that we need for all of our kids.
Well, so in a perfect world, this Wonders program, what do you hope it delivers as the end result?
As the end result, I would like all of our students, K through 6, to have a solid foundation so they can read rigorous text. I want them to be able to respond to rigorous text. In other words, I want them to be able to think critically about what they've read, to be able to find evidence for questions. But beyond that, I want them to be critical thinkers and take the lessons that they learn and apply them to their lives so that in the end, whether you end up being a doctor or whether you end up being a teacher or whether you end up being an engineer or whether you end up being a nurse's aide, that you can read and you can think critically and you can say, I can learn and I can say what I've read, I agree or disagree, and this is how it can change my life. And
really, young people spend the first 3 grades learning to read and then read to learn beyond that.
They do.
And so the program kind of adapts and changes that.
It does. It really does.
And so what do you tell people, what do you tell parents as you've adopted this district-wide and are really implementing it? How do you tell them for sure, what kind of guarantee do you say that this absolutely works? I mean, you've the research has
The
been
research,
done,
right.
but this is a big investment for young
It-
people and kids.
It is a big investment. It's a big investment for the district.
Mhm.
It's a big investment for teachers when you're learning something new. And so I tend to be a very research-driven teacher, and when I look at it and I say there are many different research pieces that are evident in here with the activities we have kids do. And we know that we can't do it alone, Bob. It's a side-by-side thing with our parents and our community to say, you know what, this is a big step and it's a big investment, but we have seen what it can do for kids, and we know the stakes and standards are high, Bob.
So, and when you're involved, I mean, obviously you're looking at quantitative statistics to make sure that this kind of
Yes.
Wonders program
Yes.
delivers,
Yes.
but you must have some great stories, some qualitative stories of kids who've
Oh,
really
yes.
been successful.
They have.
Tell us a story.
They have. Oh, okay, a story. All right. I can tell you a story of some kids and their changing attitudes.
Sure,
How's that?
that'd be great.
Okay. All right. When we first started the program, I had some students who came from a classroom that was very novel driven. In other words, when you read novels. And they were very affronted when I handed them a book like this. They said, I'm not going to read that. That's too easy, Ms. Marchand. And I said, I want you to try it, and we're going to discuss it, and we can have those same rich discussions that you had in a novel in a shorter guided reading text. And so they hem-hawed around. They hem-hawed around for a few units, you know, a few weeks in a unit. But Bob, by the end, they could see I've grown as a reader. And yeah, you know what? It may be short, but it's at my level. I'm a beyond level reader. Yeah, this was pushing me.
Yeah.
And so that was a success story for those kids. I was able to say, you know what, it doesn't have to be a novel in order for it to be a rich discussion. That's what they were thinking, a short book.
And so they can think about it.
Yeah.
And they come away with this learning material,
Yeah.
going through a thought process and then articulating it.
Exactly. And they had the same literature group discussion over a shorter text, but then they could see within a unit how themes connected. And I thought that's great too, because so many times today you're not just reading one book or you're reading one research report, you're reading several and you have to synthesize that information.
And so is that kind of the moral to this Wonders sort of program, is that you have to process a lot of information in this information age now, and this kind of helps kids do it.
It does. It really does. It brings in everything. And the ability to, if we chose to, you can have a class blog where kids can, in a private setting, there's no outside into it, they can share their ideas because, face it, Bob, that's where their future is going, is sharing and communicating digitally.
Well, and how important is that in this iPad? It's not just a toy to play games on. It really is a learning tool.
It is a learning tool, it really is, so that they can use it for their writing and for their communicating, because as the world advances, we have to have these kids ready to think critically and be able to communicate effectively about multiple text in a world where who knows what their device will be like.
Yeah,
when they
across a lot of
graduate.
platforms,
Yeah, it
right,
does,
right. And you know, there's some thought that the kids now, young people, because they work interactively on a device, they don't interpersonally communicate. But that's something the program, you really have them talk about things, don't you?
You can do that, yes.
Yeah.
And one thing that's neat is they can leave me comments when I give them an assignment and they complete it. They can leave me a note. Mrs. Marchand, this was really fun, or Mrs. Marchand, this was really hard. And that's a way that we can communicate back and forth.
Yeah, and young people communicate a little bit differently.
Oh, yes, they do.
And so how have you had to change in dealing with this? I mean, we as older people have to kind of understand how young people learn in a more maximum way and be willing to change, right?
You do. And I would say that is the message for me, is I need to know how my students learn and know what type of learning they have to have, and I have to adapt.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't stand up and be the sage on the stage anymore. It's more, okay, here's your essential question, here's some text, and yeah, I'm going to guide you through it, but we need to be communicating with each other. What are you guys thinking? And yeah, you can do it on paper, yeah, you can do it face to face, or yeah, if you want to go hop on the blog, go for it.
Yeah, and do young people have any sort of problem sharing their thoughts with you? Are they pretty good at telling you what they think?
Oh, they're pretty good about telling me exactly what they think. If they love the story, they'll let me know. And if they said, that wasn't the greatest story in the world, Ms. Marchand, I'll say, you know what, that's true, but guess what? In life, you don't always get to read everything you love.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to read things too. That close reading, get information. So guess what? Get the information, and you don't have to go back and love the story.
Yeah.
So.
But this also, it excites young people and makes them kind of passionate about reading, which is something that you want.
It is, and because it has so many different types of text in it, if, like I said before, if a kid loves informational text, it's there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have them work with fiction too, so it meets so many of their needs.
Okay, anything we haven't talked about?
Yeah, there was one thing I'd like to talk about real quickly.
Okay.
And that is, this is not just used for communicating, but we can also use it for assessment.
Oh.
So instead of just having to take a paper pencil test, my kids can use the iPad, or they can go into the computer lab and they can take their assessment online, which is really cool too, because that's going to get us ready for the Smarter Balance assessments and other assessments we're going to have for Common Core. And at first, Bob, that was a little rough for them. They said, oh, Miss Marchand, this is hard. But then as they got through it, they loved it. Number one, they loved it because it gave them instant feedback on what they did well and where they needed to work.
Yeah.
And they would celebrate. They would, come over, Miss Marchand, look, I got this, and it was so exciting. That was another great story. You were asking for stories.
Yeah.
I should have shared that one too, but it was great because they could track their growth. And as a teacher, I can go in and run a report and see where's my class as a whole, or I can pull certain students, put them in a group, and look at their progress, and I can tailor my small group teaching to their needs.
Well,
So,
thank you
great.
for talking about it. You've really excited, I think, a lot of people
Okay.
about this Wonders Reading program.
All right.
I'm Bob Colton. We'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.